Okay, everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for attending our rescheduled Turnagain Community Council meeting to now January 15th, 2026. I'm Kathy Gleason, serving as president this year, and hope everybody's having a good month so far. Let's see, let me introduce co-hosts. Well, right now I don't see Karen, so Dan Gleason is hosting this meeting, so thank you, Dan. And so Karen, our vice president, I don't see her joining us yet, but Sandy, our treasurer, or excuse me, secretary, sorry, he's our treasurer. So he's here. Thanks, Sandy. Chris, our secretary, is not going to be available this evening. And then John, at-large board member, as well as Jonathan Galen, and I don't see him joining us yet. So everybody welcome, and hopefully we'll be able to get through this meeting without interruption. So let's see. First thing we have to do is approve the agenda that was sent out. And if I could have a motion to do that, I would appreciate it.
So moved.
Thank you, John. Is there a second?
Second.
Pat,
Oh, Steve, was that you?
Yes.
Okay.
Kathy,
Yes. So we've got two amendments, and I know one is Marnie. So Marnie, you have the floor to move an amendment.
thanks, Kathy. Actually need your advice. I'd like to update the group on the status of the proposal to improve the safety trails around Westchester Lagoon. You might remember that Turnagain joined North Star and South Addition. And if it's okay with the group, maybe that could be just a quick update under old business.
Yeah, and that would be fine. If you want to go ahead and move to amend the agenda to add that to old and new business, and then we'll get a second and vote on it.
Okay, I move to add Westchester Trail improvements update to old business.
this is Pat. I'll second.
Okay, is there any objection to that amendment to the agenda? I do not see any raised hands, so that passes with no objection. And then I also have one, I'd like to add an item under board report. So I'll move to amend to add an update on the Parks Rezone Project. Small update, but anyway, update nonetheless. So if I could have a second on that.
Second.
Thanks. Is there any objection to amending the agenda to add that item under board report? Okay, so no objection to that. Anything else? If not, then we are now voting on the agenda as amended. Is there any objection to approving tonight's agenda as amended? Okay, agenda is approved. Okay. So the next item is approval of our December 4th, 2025 minutes that were sent out. So if I could have a motion to approve those minutes, please.
So moved.
Oh, I think I heard John Isaac.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Is there any objection to approval of December minutes that our secretary put together? Amanda. You need to there you go.
Yes, I don't have an objection, but just without the secretary here who is officially taking notes or minutes for the minutes tonight.
This is how it operates as far as minutes. When Chris Habich put his name out, and I've forgotten what year that was, we hadn't had a secretary, and that position needed to be filled. And because as long as we're doing Zoom meetings and everything we're saying, everybody that's attending, it's all being recorded via Zoom and archived. Then if Chris isn't available, he's retired, he travels a lot, he admitted it, but he was happy to write up minutes. And so that's he was full disclosure with that when he has run every time for this position, and nobody has ever objected. Of course, the board can review them before they go forth to approval of the body. I always caveat that if there's anything small changes that might need to be made before they're officially submitted to FCC, that we allow for that. But Chris does go back and listen and watch the entire Zoom meeting as he creates minutes from that technological wonder. So I hope that answers your question.
Got it. And that's in the bylaws because I don't remember.
We have not updated our bylaws since 2014. And so I highly doubt that was a thing because we didn't have, I don't think Zoom existed in 2014, but certainly it's become our mode of how we operate and how so many other councils, have met via Zoom, and some are still meeting via Zoom. And so that's just been an accepted practice because of the technological changes.
This is Pat. It doesn't need a bylaw change, and because the meetings are available also on YouTube, anyone can watch them all the way through. You can go back and check, and if you have any concerns about correcting the minutes, you can bring that up at any meeting, but even past minutes. But the meetings are all available on YouTube, and we should continue in the way we've been doing it. It's been working well.
Thank you, Pat. Any other discussion before we can vote on approval of the December 4th, 2025 minutes? If not, is there any objection for approving them as submitted? Okay, looks like they are approved. No objection.
I saw a black dog objecting, but that's beside.
Oh my gosh. I don't think he's officially a member of the
Well,
council. So
All right.
we're good. Okay. Announcements. I've got a few and then I'll open it up to see if anybody, and for those of you who attended a week ago, this is kind of, you'll hear them again, but this is just, we're starting from the beginning on all of this. And so there is no people mover service, and people mover offices are closed next Monday, January 19th, to honor Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Let's see. Safer Seward Highway is, looking at parts of the Seward Highway, not really, I don't think within the Anchorage Bowl area, but more, as it goes out of town to the south. I think down to Girdwood. They have a draft environmental assessment to review. There was last night a presentation on it at the Lusac Library. Comments are due. I did not attend, so I can't share anything. Comments are due February 12th. Our muni, our budget, if we do have assembly member and vice president assembly, Anna Brawley, she'll probably bring this up, but just in case she doesn't, it is in her assembly report that we'll acknowledge later on. But on Thursday, January 22nd, there is an event called Our Muni, Our Budget at 5:30 p.m. at the Mountain View Community Center. You do need to register, so you can contact the Federation of Community Councils to go ahead and register if you want to attend that event. And there is a 45-day comment period for 3 amendments to the 2050 transportation Anchorage Transportation Plan. I've looked at them. They don't appear to affect any of our area's streets directly. But if anybody wants to comment on that, then let's see, when is the deadline on that? Sorry, I didn't include it in the I think it's in February. If anybody's interested in that, contact me later and I'll look it up because I might have it somewhere in my paperwork, but I don't have it written down. Does anybody else have any announcements they'd like to share?
Kathy, one announcement.
Yes.
The Federation of Community Councils will be holding a meeting on, I'm pulling up my calendar here, on the 29th. It's part of their Better Public Meetings event. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to improve public involvement and public participation, focusing both on community councils and on the assembly. So their first public event is going to be the 29th, Thursday. I think it's at the Lusac Library, and typically they require you to register it for online. So if anyone is interested in it, I would suggest you look at the FCC website and go ahead and register. I know I've been able to get in the past without registering, but they really prefer to have people register so they know how many people are coming.
Yes, thank you, John. And I probably have the detail on that in my file called Assembly Report, or excuse me, FCC Delegate Report. So I'll see if I can find more details if anybody's interested on that. But thanks for bringing it up now as well. Anybody else have any announcements they'd like to share? Okay, if not, we will move on to 5-minute part of our meeting. If there's anybody that just wants to share something, what's new in Turnagain, probably that semi mishap would have fallen under that category on West Northern Lights. But does anybody want to share anything about what's happening?
Kathy, this is Karen.
Oh, Karen, yes.
The PTA at Turnagain Elementary School had a little discussion about the old hockey rink here and thoughts on getting it back in working order. And so I wondered what the process would be for getting time for a presentation or a support from Turnagain Community Council in the future. They don't have anything as well developed, for instance, as the plan Chris is working on with folks for Romig Hill, but just wanted to see what the plan would be.
Okay, well, thanks, Karen. I know that hockey rink was there for many, many, many years, and then all of a sudden it just kind of disappeared. And I'd have to refresh my memory, or I don't know, Pat, that's the kind of thing maybe you might have some memory about as far as why the school district took that out. And I don't know if there was a revenue issue or, yeah, Dan, go ahead.
Well, the reason why it got taken down is the plywood boards, the siding was deteriorating, and also the netting was deteriorating, and they didn't have the $25,000 to fix it, and that's why, and it became a safety issue, and that's why they took it down.
Okay. Thank you. I'm glad you remembered that because I did not remember really what I figured
Yeah.
funding was probably one of the issues.
Yeah, it was $25,000 to fix it, and at the time that was several years ago. And so instead of getting the funding to fix it, they decided to take it down because of the safety issues.
Okay. Yeah, that if there's any efforts that would be looking for TCC support from the school district, from Turnagain folks, from Turnagain students, that's not something that we would probably initially advocate and start up because we've got so much on our plate. But that doesn't mean that if there's something being proposed that they want our support, and they would come to our school, our meetings, then certainly we would entertain discussion about that. Amanda, since you teach at Turnagain Elementary, what do you have to share?
Yeah, I haven't heard it talked about so much about the students, but it's probably one of those things that if families knew that it was a possibility, that there would be, chatter about it. Some kids would get really excited, and we might see some, creative advocacy for that. I was curious about Lake Hood, if I believe they have one functioning, right? Does anyone know?
Wow. And of course, that's not, a
Yeah.
public school anymore. It's a charter school, but I don't know if they've got an active hockey rink.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the boards are up, but I don't think they actively hot mop it. That's what I've heard. They don't
Okay. Yeah.
actively they don't
It would just,
actively hot mop it, so that's why it's not active. But if somebody got out there and hot mopped it, it'd probably be taken care or take care of it. That's the issue.
yeah, it might be just finding out how they were able to maintain the boards or something might be a way, Karen, to segue to having Turnagain have one as well. But I think it'd be great. Ice time is really, really hard for, families to find. Some kids are getting up at 5:30 in the morning, right? Just to have that ice time. So I think it's a great thing to think about for Turnagain.
Okay, well, thank you. We'll see if something comes out of this discussion moving forward. Okay.
Oh, and just one other thing,
Uh-huh.
Kathy.
Sure.
Yeah, unfortunately, not as happy news, but there is the talks of, potential teacher strike. I don't know how many people on the call do have children, right? So it might not necessarily affect their daily life, but this is just, still really on teachers' minds of how to solve this overall problem and have it do it in a way that's not going to be a burden to families who are already strapped for cash, right? Like figuring out this puzzle is still really on a lot of teachers' minds.
Well, thank you, Amanda. Thanks for sharing that. That would be unfortunate, but we've got some real issues with schools and budgets and how things are going on the revenue side. So um, stay tuned, I guess it sounds like. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and jump into board report. So our next board meeting, it's not scheduled. It kind of depends on when board members are available and how quickly we can pull a agenda together on items that are coming up. So if anybody wants to know, let us know, and we'll like to oh, I see, John, you've added on the chat some information on that public forum on better public meetings. So thanks, John. Um, so let's see. And then our next regularly scheduled meeting will be on, let's see, February 5th. So again, we started meeting on the 2nd and now third Monday of Thursday of the month in January, but we'll be back to our first Thursday of the month schedule, starting with our February meeting. So again, next meeting is February 5th. Let's see. I mentioned last week, for those who joined us last week, that we will need to transition our TCC North Rim bank account to the new treasurer. And we'll try and get that done as soon as Kathleen, let's see, Kathleen McCoy, I don't think she's joining us today. She was our treasurer last year, but we'll try and get the three of us together, former treasurer Kathleen and current treasurer Sandy and myself, since the president is also a co-signatory person on that account, so we can get that transition made. So we'll definitely work on that and get it done. And there is kind of an update on the 10-year community council boundary ordinance or effort that's done every 10 years, but this one took more than 10 years to finally get it all put together. We had submitted comments, and the biggest issue we had with proposed amendments within that draft plan was to change our coastal boundary from mean low tide to mean high tide. And we did oppose that because we have traditionally followed some pretty major projects and issues within the mudflats within our boundaries. But the assembly did meet on Tuesday, and they did approve the recommended
Here from Anna.
plan as there were a couple of amendments, but they were not germane to our council boundary. So the assembly did take action on Tuesday night. So some councils are going to have amended boundaries, new boundaries. A couple councils have merged into one council. So I did get an email from Tom Davis from the planning department, and he pretty well summarized kind of what I said, that there were a couple of floor amendments and so forth. So the next step is they'll publish a final version of the adopted ordinance and amended maps after incorporating some of the 3 floor amendments. And so that might take a few weeks. The clerk's office will also update AMC section 2.40 and replace the maps embedded in that code section to reflect these changes. So if you have any questions about specifically any changes, again, now our boundaries will change as far as along the coast, but otherwise they were unaffected. So if anybody wants more information about that, let me know. I can forward you Tom's email because he's got links to a summary of the changes and all that good information. So does anybody have any questions about that? I will say, I don't see that Anna has joined us, Anna Brawley. She did mention that she did mention Turnagain's concerns about that, but she wanted to encourage our body that we still can be engaged on things in the mudflats that are along our boundaries or adjacent to our boundaries, and that hopefully wouldn't be changed as far as our participation and opportunity for input when those things come up, even though they won't technically be within our boundary anymore. So does anybody have any questions about that?
I comment. This is Pat.
Yeah.
I heard the comments too. According to what was passed and according to what was said, we can continue to comment on anything that's down out to the whatever regarding the water lines, because anything, and we can also continue to comment on things that may be outside of our community council district, although basically our lines didn't change. The line changed, but that doesn't mean we can't comment. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Pat. So the next item under board report is the Heritage Land Bank 2026 and 5-year plan. And we did submit comments on that, quite a few comments, but were very similar to comments that we have submitted in the past. And the one thing that we really emphasized was the parcels west of the airport that include the coastal trail and Point Warrenzoff Park, and not Point Warrenzoff Park, but the coastal trail and areas identified in all the major planning documents as natural open space, that they be transferred to the Parks and Recreation Department. And we have requested that for quite some time. It hasn't happened yet. It's supposed to be in their 5-year plan, but that was put in the 5-year plan about 10 years ago. So of course, we'd like to see that done, and maybe we can get some traction this year. And also, there was kind of some information with regard to, or I should say lack of information in the draft report. Something that we always include in our comments are the 1983, I believe, agreement between the state and the muni that there were parcels that needed to be transferred to the muni that are technically state, and they are parks, like Little Campbell Lake Park, and areas like that. We have requested that they be transferred from the state to the city, to go into dedicated parkland. That still hasn't happened, and traditionally they have listed all of those parcels within the plan. They've deleted the list of the projects. They still refer to that act from the 1980s and that there is supposed to be a transfer of state land to the muni, but they don't list the parcels individually anymore. And I don't know why not. And we've requested that they be submitted back, just added back in for everybody's engagement and knowledge. So I'm hoping the assembly will make that amendment and ask HLB to put that list back in. So anybody have any questions about that item? And their public hearing on that is February 17th. Amanda, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. And just seeing, John, if you could answer these questions. So the land that's in question, is this currently mostly HLB land?
Well, Amanda, if I may, this is all HLB land that we're talking about.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. John, are you able to answer a few questions?
It depends. I haven't followed the HLB land as much as I have other things, but go ahead and we'll see.
Okay. And so for the land use, just trying to see for all of our residents that are in Turnagain right now, just what has been the thoughts on outreach to people regarding getting input. I understand the executive board's position. They just wanted to hear as we go into this next year what the board's thoughts are on getting input from the community regarding that.
And so I guess I'm not sure you're talking specifically about the Heritage Land Bank comments. And Kathy, I don't know if the comment period is still open. Let me just say a couple more things and you can add to that. You know, typically, if I'm not mistaken, we have put together comments. Those comments have come up on the agenda. They've been discussed, and if people wanted to add to them, they could be added to it, and we would put that in. So we have been, I think, through the process of formalizing our comments. If there were additional comments on the Heritage Land Bank plan, as Kathy said, the upcoming public meeting before the assembly would be an opportunity to both submit written testimony and to make oral testimony. And so that could be done by both individuals, or if we wanted to bring something up to add to that for Turnagain Community Council vote on, we could do that. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Kathy, did you say that the public hearing on the land bank was going to be in February? Is that correct?
Yes, the assembly public hearing. The public hearing that went before the Heritage Land Bank Advisory Committee was in January, and they did not make any changes as far as our input. And we have already approved our input on this document. It was reviewed and formalized, and we passed that. I don't remember if that was in November or December. So we've already taken a position. Like I've described in the past, we've taken the same position. I literally take the previous letter, go through the plan, take everything that we discussed on previous plans and put it in the new document, our comment document, because we've taken this position consistently with regard to the parcels west of the airport that are designated parks open space in all the planning documents that we'd like to have that transferred to Parks and Rec. And so there's nothing new. Our position has been the same for quite some time. We voted on it multiple times throughout the years. So we're not in a position to revisit that now and then change our comments that we submitted and our testimony that we submitted when it comes before the assembly. I'll represent the community council on what we passed.
So let me make a slightly amended suggestion there. Given the fact that there is going to be time between when the assembly is going to hear this and we have our next meeting on February 5th, I would say if individuals want to read the plan and read our comments and you have something else that you think should be covered, you have a couple options. Option number one is to add it to the agenda and we could discuss it. And if we decide as a group to vote on it and amend it, I think that is possible, despite what we've done in the past. The other option would be that if you see something that you think is not there or want to be covered, and for example, a theoretical example of that could be making Heritage Land Bank land available for more housing development, which is kind of what happened in Holton Hills, for better or for worse. That would be another thing that could be brought up. If it's something within Turnagain's boundaries, you could bring it up in the next meeting. We could discuss it and see if you have enough people who want to take a position on it. I would certainly also urge you to consider submitting those comments on behalf as an individual to the assembly. And so what you would want to do is you would want to find out when the deadline for comments to get into the assembly packet is, because it's usually most effective to give them something written that they can see as compared to having them hear it for the first time at the meeting and have to react to it. Typically, Kathy, it's like a week or so before the assembly meetings, the deadline to get it into the packet, if I remember.
Yeah. I think at least a week,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
maybe a bit more than that. Yeah.
so if there are things that are of concern, I would start thinking about those now and thinking about that we can bring them up for discussion at our February 5th meeting. But again, think about submitting individual comments and the points you would want to make. I know that a lot of the concerns that have typically been Turnagain Community Council concerns have been lands that have been sort of, I'll say, de facto used for public access and parks and recreation, and we're interested in that. I don't think we have ever had a formal discussion of Heritage Land Bank lands for housing. I suspect, and I'll talk about this a little bit more under the land use committee in terms of where the TISDO is going, because I think that might be a better place to talk about that.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. That's really helpful.
Okay.
Gladly.
Yeah, so the board can, when we meet and set the agenda, we'll see if we want to put that on the agenda again to revisit, since
Yep.
it's already in the packet, and it's already been presented to the Heritage Land Bank Advisory Commission. It would be, I don't, and but Amanda, if there's any other HLB parcels that we didn't comment on that fall within Turnagain that you might look at, because I'm not sure what you're thinking, if you're thinking housing, then that's something that would be new to it wouldn't contradict what we've already approved. It would be new comments to add to what we've approved. So if you can, you know, identify which HLB parcels that you're kind of interested in that we haven't taken a position on and covered in our comments, then that might be something that we could put on the agenda. So please.
Pat has her hand up.
Oh, excuse me. What?
Pat has her hand up.
Oh,
Pat
Pat.
Redmond.
I just wanted to remind maybe even you, Kathy, that those meetings, the last meeting of all these municipal board and commission meetings are available to view on either live or the recordings on YouTube. And it's something we hadn't talked about before, but if Amanda wants to go back and look and actually hear what went on at that meeting, she can do that on YouTube. Under Municipality of Anchorage, you just go look them up and they're all there. Thank you.
And
Thanks, Pat.
Kathy,
Yeah.
something else related is, if I remember correctly, our comments, any resolution we passed on the Heritage Land Bank should be available on our website under perhaps archive or something like that. There's a place on our website. If you look under Turnagain Community Council, you'll get to a website and it will show, I think, current and archived resolutions. You may have to dig a little bit, but I'm sure it's probably there.
Yeah, and I've got copies probably going back at least 10 years of the comments that we've approved.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just make a note of that. Okay, Okay, so update, board report continued. As I had mentioned a week ago, we had thought maybe we'd get JJ Brooks and the housing development proposed at West Northern Lights and Turnagain Street on the agenda at some point, maybe the first quarter of this year. So the board can, discuss that when we set the February agenda or March and see what we want to do as far as that topic goes. The AMATS Minnesota Drive and I and L Street Corridor Plan Advisory Committee meeting. They haven't set another meeting yet, so I don't have any updates on that. Beyond the Beige project for Fish Creek Park. For those who attended last week, I explained that there's some funding, some Anchorage Park Foundation funding available to spruce up some areas and some of the parks by painting murals. And in one of the parks they've identified for this first round that they're looking at doing is Fish Creek Park, which is within the Turnagain Community Council boundaries, but of course it borders Bernard Community Council as well. And so we'll collaborate with the Parks Department and the Park Foundation and Spenard to see what kind of mural design we might want to see at the park there at Fish Creek. And that it's just that kind of low sitting retaining wall. That's the wall that they're looking at, potentially having artwork on it. And so, as I had mentioned a week ago, there's also some dead trees that were donated and planted in the past. And we'd like to see if we can get that effort just jointly, with this beige project, because that certainly would help beyond beige of dead trees and get some new ones planted. And as in the past, husband Dan and I have donated those. And so we're happy to do that again. And I haven't gotten any kind of updates of when we'll start meeting about this project, but it's something to keep on our radar because it's a well-used park, and anything to spruce it up, I think would be a good idea. Let's see, the official streets and highways plan. Comments are due on February 15th. And let's see. I checked with FCC if they'd had any kind of updates with regard to the official streets and highways plan effort. And as of last week, they said no. But I think the effort that's moving forward is they're only picking certain streets and so forth, as mentioned earlier. And I don't think this round of streets and looking at reclassifications and downsizing, you might say reclassifications, as John had mentioned earlier, to get slower speed limits and so forth for pedestrian safety. But I don't believe there's any projects within Turnagain in this first round. But if we hear anything, then we'll see what's going on with that. But again, it's comments are due on February 15th. And then the item that I added to the agenda with regard to an update on the Parks rezone project is in December, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to recommend approval of their cases, which will rezone a number of parcels to Parks and Rec, PR zoning across the bowl, including parks in Turnagain. The next step is this item will go before the Assembly for a public hearing in the coming weeks, no date set. And its implementation of Action 8-4 of the 2040 Land Use Plan, conduct housekeeping rezone of dedicated parks to the PR district and some T-zone parks to PLI. So that's kind of the update as far as it is a housekeeping, but there's a lot of parks within Turnagain that are part of that map. And so we'll follow that and see when this goes before the assembly for input. So if anybody's interested in that, just stay tuned. Okay, The last thing on the board report is FCC delegate report. So let's see. The last time we met was December 17th of last year. We do have our next meeting on Wednesday, December 21st, so next week. And at that last meeting that we discussed.
Correction, January 21st.
Sorry, January 21st. Thank you, Dan. So we discussed the status of the FCC delegate chair, and in the end, we passed a motion, or excuse me, there was a motion to unseat Mike Edgington, who is from Girdwood, but he was elected chair when last time we had chair elections, officer elections, and there had been some controversy attached to that and his standing. So somebody did move to remove him from that position. That motion failed, so he is still the chair until we have elections coming up, I believe, this spring. FCC submitted their request for 2025 budget to the Muni, which now is in play, but that's what we had done last year. And it's the same amount as last year. We did have $12,000 left before the end of last year that had not been spent, but by protocol, we have to spend every dime that we get in each calendar year. Within that calendar year, there can be no surplus, and so it can't be carried over on the books. So we voted to have that remaining balance go to some OWL, Zoom OWL supplies, technology, and prepaying some website support costs that will inevitably come up this year. So we prepaid some of that. The mayor's report, Graham Downey attended our meeting and discussed Tisdale, that it was still on hold. And he provided an overview of the revenue proposals. And we did have a school board report at our FCC meeting, and Carl Jacobs is the board member for this school year to present, and he did discuss budget issues. And Kenny Peterson attended. He represents the Good Neighbor Fund, which is something that he has put together that generates funding to help homeless. So, and then on Saturday, January 31st of this year, there will be a Charting the Course Leadership and Officer Summit 2026 event. It'll be held at the Nave there on Spenard Road. So those who can participate need to register ahead of time, and it's FCC delegates and any community council officers. So I have registered and plan to attend. Karen, I know that you had expressed interest as well. So
Yeah,
you have
all the
registered
time.
or plan to?
Yeah.
Okay. And then with regard to the FCC bylaws, let's see. The update is that the committee, the FCC bylaws committee, let me get that back up in front of me. They did meet twice in December, and they met earlier this week. I have no updates except that when we have our delegate meeting, they had been working on another draft after they had gotten input orally at our meetings, as well as people submitted written comments, and they have taken all that into consideration, discussed it, digested it, and I believe the plan is for us to consider a new draft this next Wednesday, but I have not seen it yet, and I don't have any idea what changes may have been made. So stay tuned on that item as well. So,
Kathy,
yes, Dan.
John has his hand up and Amanda has her hand up.
Okay, John and then Amanda.
Okay, Kathy, I'm assuming that the meeting next Wednesday is open to the public. The public
Oh
can
yeah, FCC
watch.
delegate meetings are always open to the public. Always, always,
So
always.
be open. If I looked at the website, you can attend in person, which is 6 to 8, and you can also attend by Zoom. So I
Yeah.
would suggest that anyone who is interested in the bylaws consider attending that meeting, and maybe there's a way to get an agenda ahead of time. If you do, and I know the current version of the bylaws, I think is on their website, and that has not changed. If you do hear anything from them ahead of time, and if they were to make bylaws available ahead of time, is there a way to let people who are interested know about that?
I would say contact the Federation of Community Councils directly. That would be the best source of any documents that the delegate are going to be provided to review, and including any kind of bylaw revisions. So just go straight to the source. That's the best way to find out.
Okay, and then one last thing is I'm assuming that once a new version of bylaws are available, that is something that we can add to our agenda for the next meeting to discuss and see if there are concerns, comments, and suggestions.
Sure. I'm sure that under the February FCC delegate report, I'll have an update of what transpired next week.
Great, that's all for me. Thanks.
Yes, certainly. Yes, Amanda.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. So just two comments of just adding to that information. So Girdwood did vote to have their co-chair, Jen Wingard, be the FCC delegate, and they voted explicitly to not have the co-chair, Edgington, to be the delegate. So this is an added layer in that, and what you mentioned about the vote that challenge to the chair, the issue at hand is right. If this individual is not a delegate, and I don't want to go into bring up a lot of that, just saying that because I think it's important for all of us at community councils to understand that who our delegates are, right? Who these delegates are at the FCC. And then the second thing is that the bylaws, from what I've been understanding from other community councils, several councils have already passed either resolutions or have had very involved discussions about the bylaws already. So, and the biggest concern seems to be the push for, in these bylaws, it's very clear they want to create a membership model where there is a executive, there's like a fewer, a director board that is over members, and that the members would not have as much say. So just like with the budget passing and Kathy being able to give input on the budget, right? And vote on that things like that, having all the delegates be able to vote would not happen frequently with this push that is being made through the bylaws. So I think that's a really important topic to be discussing now. I appreciate, John, you adding it or suggesting that be added to the agenda later, so like at the very latest. But this is a really big change, and it would mean council's already talking about it. So that's just the info that I'd like to give.
Thanks, Amanda. Yeah, councils have been talking about this for quite some time once these revisions started. This has not been a flyby effort. This has been very methodical. And the reason why they wanted a lot of input at the committee level is because Amanda, like you said, people have questions, people have suggestions, people want more information. And so that's why there hasn't been another draft to review yet, because like I said, the committee met twice in December. They've met once now in January to try and get all of that input and see what they are going to present. So I have no idea what they're going to present. I know that I verbally shared at one of the delegate meetings or the special workshops that we've held two of them, is that with regard to any kind of budget, that the full delegate body, all 37 representatives, would be able to vote on the budget. Because I think that's an important thing where every council is affected by the amount of money, what that money is going to be used for, what it's going to be proposed to use for. So I personally actually did suggest that. We'll find out how much of the delegate input is going to be reflected in this next go around. We'll find out hopefully next week, or at least start getting a better feel on this next draft. Okay, anybody else? Okay, if not, we will move on to, let's see, reports. So did I see that we have somebody from the mayor's office? I'm trying to kind of scan around and see if that's the case. Maya. Oh, no, that's Representative Hall, excuse me. So I'm not sure we have anybody from the mayor's. They did reiterate at our December delegate meeting that the goal is for a representative from the mayor's office to attend each community council at least twice within their calendar year. And so we have yet to have somebody from the mayor's office. So if we, hopefully we will have somebody join us, in the not too distant future, but otherwise there wouldn't be any mayor's report tonight. Assembly report. So I'm not sure if Anna has joined us. I don't see her. So, she had started giving her assembly report during our meeting last week, and then we had major Zoom conflicts and technical issues and had to abruptly end our meeting in the middle of her report. So she did write up things that she was going to share verbally. And so I put that in a format in a Word document or a PDF file that got sent out with our meeting notice for tonight. So hopefully people have had a chance to scan what she provided. It's pretty extensive. She talked about budget items. There were originally 4 revenue proposals on the table to go before the voters in the April 2026 ballot election, but 2 were taken off the table. And I know that the 3% tax was removed by Mayor LaFrance. That was announced at the assembly meeting on Tuesday. And instead, a one-time, I believe, 1% tax, but I didn't get any details. And so that obviously is still in the works as far as what may end up on the ballot. And so let's see. There's also several bonds that will be on the ballot that were approved at their January 13th meeting, I believe. And one of them is Turnagain Street project upgrades that will be on the roads and drainage bond for design work. And we all know how interesting of a road that is and within our area. There was a project done, about 10 years ago or so, but the reality is the right of ways are so slender that our position has been that we would like at least one sidewalk and lighting and curb, gutter, and drainage. I think since then, some people have questions about the lighting and the curb and gutter. So we'll see. Hopefully we will, if that passes, if it's on the bond and it passes, then we will certainly be engaged with that new look at a design for that heavily used street. So budget challenges continue. And so the assembly is working on that. And she made reference to the Our Muni, Our Budget series. So again, that event is Thursday, January 22nd at Mountain View Community Center. They're asking if you're interested that you register. And let's see. So what else was she going to share? That she shared in her report is the Better Public Meetings Project. And again, Thursday, January 29th. It's not an assembly project, but focusing on 2 community councils who are participating in this. Spenard, and Northeast Community Councils. But of course, anybody is welcome to attend. And then you could register for City Nerd Night and Design Week, our Winter City, on February 26th. So that's in partnership with Anchorage Design Week. So there are tickets. And I don't have a lot more information about that. But if you look at a report, there's a link if you want to register for that. So I think that was going to be the gist of her report. So I'd be happy to entertain any questions. If it's in her report, I can elaborate on her report. Not, we'll thank Anna for putting everything in writing since she wasn't able to attend tonight and she was cut off shortly before the meeting. So let's see, our next item on the agenda is the legislative report, the legislative report. And I did get an email from Serena, rep for Senator Matt Clayman. He won't be able to join our meeting until after 8 o'clock. But I see that Maya, Representative Carolyn Hall is here. And so we'll go ahead and allow you to give your legislative report now. And then when the time comes and it's appropriate, once Matt joins us, then we'll get a senator report from him. So welcome.
Yeah, hello. I also want to introduce my coworker Keith Bruce is also in call. And my expect that you'll be seeing either of us at your meetings for the next couple of months moving forward. We just have a quick update. Sort of just wanted to update everybody again. If you haven't seen, I'm guessing many of you have, sort of what's happening with the governor's proposed budget. So we were excited about some pieces of it. He's funding education as asked this time. However, the proposed budget right now does have a $1.5 billion deficit. So that is what the legislature is going to be grappling with in the next coming months. But some line items from the budget we wanted to call out were the $1.4 billion for K-12 schools, $40 million for disaster relief, $350 million for public safety, and $98 million for behavioral health treatments. And our other ask is that we are conducting right now a little West Side Anchorage survey. It is important to us that we know what your priorities are so that we are most accurately reflecting and representing you when we are down here in Juneau. I sent you today, I'm sorry it was so late, that link though, in a little paper. But I can read it out loud. The link is surveymonkey.com/r/repaul2026. I don't think it should take more than 5 minutes to do. It's nice and short and sweet, but it really helps us reflect your priorities down here in the legislature. And that is what the report is from Rep Paul.
Okay, excuse me. Can you put that in the chat room, that link as well? For the
I can do that.
That would be great. Thank you. Okay, any questions? Amanda.
Okay, thank you, and good to meet you guys. Thanks for are you based in Anchorage or based in Juneau for the session?
All three of Rep Paul staffers right now, we're all in Juneau together. And you will continue probably to see me after we come back to Anchorage, as I will be still working for the office once we come home and be in Anchorage.
Okay. And yes, just what's for me and my demographic, being a single mom and just in the education space and in Turnagain, really thinking about my students who are not in that, they're in a lower income bracket, and just the effect of things like reduced PFDs and, higher taxes would be on those families. So that's something that is important for me. That 1 point, whatever the deficit that you mentioned for the governor's budget, that's really concerning, right? In light of that. So those conversations, I just look forward to, having dialogues about those We understand families know there's a lot of hard choices, but what's hard is to be told things like the gravy train is over or something like that. It's like, no, okay, maybe we can have some more creative thinking going on. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'll definitely take that sentiment back to the representative.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Comments or questions for Maya? Okay, well, thank you. And again, when Senator Matt Clayman joins us later on, we'll see where we're at on the agenda and allow him to speak and provide when it's logical for us to kind of stop our agenda. So school board report. Let's see. Is Kelly with us? I know Kelly Lessons was able to attend our meeting a week ago, but of course we had to end prematurely, so she wasn't allowed, or excuse me, she wasn't able to give her school board report, and I don't see her at this evening's meeting, which is unfortunate because I'm sure that she would have had some good information as well. Okay, so we move on to airport report, and I see Lex Yelverton has joined us. Thank you, Lex.
Hi, Kathy. How are you doing?
It's fine.
Awesome. So I'm excited to share some of our community updates with you guys. I hope you guys had a happy new year. I know it's a little past that, but yeah, I know there was some technical difficulties, but happy we can all be here together now. But I'm just going to go through some of our community updates for the month of January at the airport, and then afterwards feel welcome to ask any questions you guys have. First off, we have Alaska Airlines has announced that they're doing 3 brand new nonstop routes from Anchorage. And so those routes are going to Boise, Boston, and Spokane. So that's like the biggest thing right now, biggest news for us. So it's super exciting. This is for the first time ever that they're nonstop. And so it just is a lot more accessible for, people traveling to those locations, easier to get there. Some other new routes that we're excited about is Alaska Airlines expanding service to 2 other destinations, San Diego and Sacramento. And there will be a service added on Wednesday for that frequency in summer of 2026. So we're excited about that. ANC has received national recognition for its concession program. And that kind of speaks to, our high quality food, retail service options at the airport. We were ranked #1 twice on the top 50 performance list in the Airport Experience Factbook 2025. So it was good news for us, and we're happy to share that with everyone. The next big news that you guys would probably be super interested in is our Part 150 noise study. We now have a meeting date set up for the next meeting, which is on February 19th from 10 to 12 or noon at the Coast Inn. So that will be an in-person meeting. Yeah, and so we're super excited to, invite the public and have everyone there to learn more about the Part 150 noise study, get more commentary from everyone, and have people ask any really important questions that they are interested in. The next thing we have going on at the airport that we've kind of just wrapped up is our holiday music and art contest. So we had a kids art contest, and we had some top winners who won some amazing prizes, and we're giving out some of those prizes on Friday, tomorrow, to some Campfire Alaska students. So we're really excited to be able to go over there and, surprise them. It's actually a pair of sisters who won this year's contest, and so we're giving them an art kit and some gift cards. And the other big thing is our holiday music performance series is wrapping up, and we had over a dozen different performers, Anchorage School District choirs, orchestras come and perform. So that was so super amazing, and we just wanted to thank the community for coming out and performing and sharing your time and just spreading cheer during the holiday season. That was super awesome. The next big thing to know when you're traveling at the airport is we have TSA confirm updates coming February 1st. So if you're going through a TSA checkpoint, TSA is encouraging that everyone has a real ID or form of ID that can pass through security. And if you don't, the only way that you're going to be able to pass through security is going to be through something new called Confirm ID. And so you can choose to pay this $45 fee and be vetted through security. So they'll do like a background check, make sure that you're okay to pass through security, and you'll have to pay a $45 fee if you don't have a proper ID. And so we're encouraging everyone to go and look at that, go online, look up TSA's Confirm ID. You can find all of the different forms of identification that they allow and support to be able to go through TSA. We don't want anyone getting stuck at security and not being able to pass through and miss their flight. So we encourage everyone to just, check on that in case you don't have, a real ID or sufficient form of ID currently, because that will soon be in place. The next thing is, as we're coming out of the holiday season, we're still having a lot of limited capacity at the airport, and so our short-term and long-term parking lots are still pretty full. So we're again encouraging people to plan ahead when you're heading to the airport. Make sure you're checking your flight, allow a little bit of extra time for parking and going through security. Again, we just don't want anyone missing a flight. We don't want you having to run to your gate, so try to be a little early. And again, we're encouraging people to park at our North Terminal parking lot. We're also encouraging people to park at our Park, Ride, and Fly lot or in private parking, so in the Diamond parking or Alaska Airport parking. Other than that, if you're interested in receiving any of our updates, our press releases, big news that is coming out actively at the airport, you can go to Gov Delivery and sign up. It's the very last thing on this document that I send you all every month. Yeah, but I can also send you guys the link if you guys are interested. But those are the biggest updates that I have for the airport for the month of January. So if anyone has any questions, I would love to answer them.
Okay, thank you so much, Lex. Anybody have any questions?
So Kathy, just a comment.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
So I did send an email based on some of our board discussions, and I think our last meeting, to both Terry and Lex, and asking questions about an update on the Lake Hood fence removal, indicating the webpage schedule were helpful, and wanted to know if there are plans for establishing a new security fence on airport property relying on existing fence systems. I also asked about additional Lake Hood development plans. I mentioned that we got a briefing from a representative Northlink at our November meeting about the Anchorage Airport Partners proposed project, and asked for an update on that and when there might be opportunity for public input, and also an update on the West Air Park. And I did get a nice email back from Terry basically saying that she wanted to coordinate with the team members to make sure she has details correct. So she plans to get back to us with something, but nothing yet. So just to kind of let you know what's happened there.
Okay, thank you, John. Thanks for reaching out. Now, did you CC the board on that or not?
I don't know that I did, so I will forward this to everybody.
Okay, that would be great. I appreciate it.
Yeah, just wanted to mention one other thing. In regards to the next presentation on the fence removal project, we're gonna be working with Kathy to get back on the agenda, just share another presentation with more updates, likely in winter, spring 2026, in the next couple months. So we'll be working with you guys once we have some more updated and solid information that we can share with everyone.
Okay, yeah, very much appreciated. Anybody else have, John, you still have your hand up?
Nope, I'm done. Thanks.
Okay, sure. Anybody else have anything they want to share? I just might share a personal note that husband Dan and I flew 3 times out of Anchorage within about 5.5 weeks at the end of last year. And it always makes me appreciate how well things go at our airport in terms of just check-in and security screening and concessions and just everything just seems to go smoothly. Now, granted, the places that we flew into are much bigger airports, so there was a lot more chaos, but still, it made me appreciate the size and the efficiency and how well things are run at ANC.
Yeah, I always feel that way when I'm traveling too. It just seems a lot more smooth. I also saw a study recently that Alaska Public Media posted and said that there's a less likelihood for delays when you're traveling out of Anchorage, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you again, Lex.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Sure. Okay, next item is old and new business. So we'll transition into old and new business. And the first item on the agenda is the proposed Turnagain Community Council resolution with regard to Rumig Hills Trails conceptual renovations and funding source. And so we have Mark Larson here to present. So Mark, you have the floor.
Thank you, Kathy, and hi, everybody. Myself and two neighbors, Chris Abish and Mark Dalton, have thought it was a good time to look at the trails after the recent abatement. We have a fresh start at kind of getting the public in there to keep the trails safe and accessible. They were anything but that a while ago. We were also interfaced with a school community who's had quite a bit of concern about what was going on down there, and a solution to keeping things open up is to get the public down, going down there. That was the case in the past, and we'd like to see that happen again. And we're proposing some trail work. Toward that end, we've already sponsored a cleanup event that had about 25 to 30 neighbors come in, collect about 4 to 6 pickup loads of garbage, refuse left over. We've also approached Parks and Rec and got the tentative okay to have the Youth Employment and Parks Program, work on the hill this coming summer, which is really a good indicator that they feel like it's a good idea as well. And we've also enlisted and interfaced with a lot of the students at West High who want to see something happen there as well. And we have a map that if we can bring up, I don't know if you can do that, Dan, or just to show you I'll talk through it while the map is coming. There we go. So the trails are bordered on 4 sides. If you look at the top, that's north, obviously the lagoon. The south border of Margaret Sullivan Park is Hillcrest Drive. To the right or the east is that yellow line parallels the bike path roughly. And all the yellow lines you see are the kind of the existing trails that go through the park. To the left, to the west is a little more vague, but that blends into the neighborhood along Wildwood. But there's a labyrinth of about 3/4 of a mile of trail in there that the school uses for field trips, the community uses to walk dogs and hike and snowshoe and bike in there, and the ski and running teams use that for their training. When I see the ski team, it's only used for the dry land foot running before the snow flies. So these are not ski trails that we're proposing to clear up another misperception that was maybe was an earlier approach to the community council. So that's what we're not doing, is making a ski trail. We're also not building any new trails. We're just looking at rehabilitating the ones that are there. And thirdly, we're not moving any significant amount of earth other than a few shovelfuls to kind of straighten the trail or smooth a bump here and there. I think unless there's any clarifications on what the scope and the purpose is, I can go to the resolution.
Yeah, let's just see. Does anybody have any questions about where these trails are located? And thanks for that great map, Mark.
I want one question.
Sure.
On the west, the north-south, on the west side, those 2 trails, are they going to be used for sledding hills, since those are pretty steep?
The hills are as they are. That's not our intent. If that's what people choose to do, but it's not a designated sledding hill.
Okay.
These are multi-purpose trails for people to do as they wish, other than motorized vehicles or
Okay.
horses, obviously. So yeah.
All right.
Along.
Yeah, I can't. Does anybody else have any questions or comments at this point?
I just wanted to thank you for the map too. That's really helpful. And also, this is even though the what I'm going to comment on was out just outside those map lines. Did anybody see the beautiful S curves that were in the fresh snow? It was a nice little art installation. Somebody had done
Mhm.
really, a really good
Nice,
job
nice. Yeah.
snowboarding and a nice little pattern there.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So the resolution has some of the specifics here. Whereas the community challenge
Okay,
grant.
well, hang on, Mark.
Go ahead.
So yeah, those who are working on this, and thank you, Mark and Chris and Mark Dalton and collaborating with the Parks Department and Anchorage Park Foundation. They have drafted a resolution for consideration at our meeting this evening so that they can show whether we support all of this work and effort that's being proposed. So I need a motion to approve.
Okay.
And a second, and then we'll go ahead and have you read the resolution, Mark.
So
Sure, thank
moved.
you.
Okay, so Dan is moving approval.
I'll second
And
Kathy.
okay, thank you, Karen. Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Great, thanks, Kathy. Whereas the 2026 Community Challenge Grant Anchorage Park Foundation application period opens in early 2026, actually about March or so. Oh, I'm sorry, January 30th. Yeah. Whereas the Romic Hill trails were established, maintained, and used by community members over decades, including renovations in 2012 by the West High School ski team, faculty, parents, and students. Basically, we were returning to that state that we had established in 2012. Okay, next, number 3. Whereas students and faculty from West High School have expressed interest in executing a trail renovation plan, and these are more of the specifics here. Number 4, whereas the Romic Hill trails have deteriorated and need infrastructure renovations to make them more accessible and safer. The objective of the renovations are to provide trails suitable for multi-use. The conceptual plan to satisfy these infrastructure renovations includes spanning muddy areas with fiberglass grates. I'm going to put in parentheses here, about 3 of them, one about 60 feet and 2 others at roughly 25 feet. Okay, fiberglass grates and hardening soft trails with gravel. Labor to complete the work is anticipated to be provided by a combination of volunteer community members and from the Youth Employment in Parks program. Grant required match is anticipated to come from a combination of volunteer labor and community fundraising. Okay. And whereas number 5, some members of the team proposing this plan successfully competed for a previous Anchorage Park Foundation Community Challenge grant and successfully implemented a trail renovation plan in Earthquake Park in 2024 and 25. And if we could scroll down, lastly, whereas the Muni of Anchorage Camp Abatement Program has recently cleared a large-scale public nuisance encampment on this property, and a well-used community trail system is likely to act as a deterrent to the reestablishment of encampments. We've already seen that. After we did the cleanup effort, the public was down there, a lot more people were calling, and we actually witnessed 2 walkthroughs just when we were out there for a walk ourselves. 2 walkthroughs of the community service patrol and the police to kind of further abatement of camps, and we'd like to see that continue. So,
just as noted, your commentary is not part of the resolution.
okay.
So go ahead, Mark. Finish up.
I'm new to this. That
It's
they're
okay.
now for it be resolved by the Turnagain Community Council that this Turnagain Community Council, after membership discussion, approve this resolution by the vote of as follows.
Okay, thank you
Take it
so
away.
much. Okay, is there any discussion about this proposed resolution? And if you can go ahead and remove that from the screen, Dan, so that everybody can see each other. Unless
I
there's
think,
questions about language within the resolution. Does anybody have any questions about language within the resolution?
yeah, Kathy, I just have a comment on one, Mark, based on what you told us. That it sounds like the abatement was done with volunteers and the municipality. Is there a way to add that as well, or what do you?
I'm not knowledgeable about the specifics of the abatement, but that was done by Parks and Rec. My
The
understanding
cleanup
is there are
of the,
no volunteers used for that.
oh, when you mentioned the garbage that was taken out, that wasn't with volunteers. That was all with
No,
the.
no, I'm sorry. We hosted a volunteer effort well after the abatement to clean up leftover residual garbage, those leftover from camps that were already disbanded.
Yeah, I wonder if including that in the resolution, I'm just gonna assure that, it was really why we're able to progress is because of that amazing volunteer work, right? It didn't have to be just the abatement, it was also needing a lot of that cleanup. So I just wanted to hear members' thoughts on that.
Okay.
Does anybody think that the resolution should be amended in any way?
Kathy, I think it is a nice perhaps addition just to recognize that the volunteers also contributed to that. And so I would
Yeah.
You want to propose some language, John? So you move to amend?
move to amend, and let's see where would be the best whereas for that? I'm going to ask
The
Mark.
last whereas probably when it talks about cleared large-scale public nuisance encampment.
Yeah, I would say a camp abatement program supported by volunteer efforts.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's-
It's supportive, it's of
I
the,
agree to,
of
I
the
agree to
plan.
the amendment being the mover
Sorry,
of the
Dan.
proposal.
Sorry, Dan, what, I'm sorry, what?
I agree to the amendment.
Do you second the amendment?
Well, I agreed to the amendment since I was the mover of the. So
Okay,
yes.
I need a formal second to.
Formal second right here, Kathy.
Second.
Thank you,
Yes.
Right here.
Jonathan. Okay, so the amendment is to add to the last whereas.
Mhm.
You would insert, why don't you just read how you want the whereas to be worded, John?
Hang on, get
Whereas-
mute. Okay, so it would be whereas the municipality of Anchorage Camp Abatement Program, supported by volunteer efforts, has recently cleared a large-scale public nuisance encampment, etc.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody object to the amendment? I don't, Mark, if you can remove Dan, if you can remove the document so I can see if there's any objection. I don't see any hands raised, so no objection. So that amendment is approved. And then we'll go back to the main motion as amended, that we support this resolution as presented by Mark Larson. Is there any objection? Why don't we go ahead and do a hand count since that's typically what we do for resolutions. So all in favor of this resolution, please raise your hand. And if I can have the board help me count hands, mine is up as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Am I missing anybody? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Kathy, I'm voting yes. Kathleen Belaski.
Okay, thank you. 15. Okay, 15.
I've got
yes.
15 twice as well.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Is there any objection? And everybody, please remove your hands if you voted yes. Amanda, are you objecting, or you just haven't removed your hand?
No.
Okay, I don't see any objections. Is there anybody abstaining? So no abstentions. So that resolution as amended passes. And thank you again, Mark, and everybody else that's been working on this.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Kathy, and everybody. Check out the trails. They're pretty cool. All right. Appreciate it.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
Positive work in the area. Okay, and so we will move on to the second item under old and new business. And it dawned on me, I didn't even mention it at our board meeting because I hadn't thought about it yet, but I did add it to the agenda then, that when it went out, the original agenda last week. It's election, gearing up for elections for April. Wow, that comes by so fast. And so for those of you who have been around for a while and involved with Turnagain Community Council, you know that we have partnered with other West Anchorage community councils on to have a candidate forum, and they've been very, very successful in the past. We've done it for both the local and state candidates in elections. And this year on the ballot, there is Anna Brawley, who is a current sitting assembly member, vice president right now. She is running for re-election. That seat is, open. Or not open, but is going to be voted on this April, as well as 2 board members. So when we do these forums, we only do those who represent West Anchorage. And so in this case, that would be the seat that Anna Brawley is currently operating under. And then there's 2 school board seats that are up for re-election or election. And I'm not sure about if people are running for re-election on those 2 board seats or not. So haven't reached out to, typically in the past, North Star Community Council, with boundary changes and this and that, I'm not sure we would include North Star, but certainly Turnagain, Spenard, Sand Lake, and Taku Campbell are typically the councils that that jointly participate in these forums. They have in the past. I have not reached out to any of them, so but I thought this is a good way to maybe bring this up. If we pass some kind of motion or I didn't write up a resolution. All it would need is a motion to at least initiate discussion and participation about an event this spring before the I believe April 7th elections. I think this year it's April 7th, but don't quote me on that. So Karen and then Dan, I see both of you have your hands raised.
I just wanted to note that Serena from Senator Clayman's office had joined us, but it looks like she's gone now. And I want to note that I'm supportive of hosting a candidates forum. And I wondered if you had mentioned whether or not we would look at potentially having it at Spenard if they were available, and potentially partnering with Spenard Community Council if they're interested. Thanks.
Well, certainly. Traditionally, we have held this at the Spenard Recreation Center. It's been a great venue for our past events. And again, if we decide to do this, I would say that we would want to have any community council that shares the district that Anna is currently serving in. So it would be, beyond Spenard, likely Taku Campbell and South Sam Lake as well. So I don't know if that addresses what you just said, Karen, or not.
Yeah.
But some councils may decide to not participate since we haven't reached out. This is the first drop in the ocean that will, the effort that would be, an end result. So, and thank you, Amanda. I've got in the chat room, Brian Flynn is also running for the West Anchorage Assembly seat that is up for on the ballot this April. So thank you for that information. Dan, you have your hand raised.
I was going to say the same thing. Brian Flynn is running for the West Anchorage as
Okay.
well.
Okay. So any other discussion about if those who may not be familiar with this, our candidates forums in the past, do you have any questions? We usually provide refreshments. We come up community councils, obviously we form a committee and representation on all the participating sponsoring community councils. And we come up with council questions, and then we open questions up to the public. We allow time for them to introduce themselves. So again, it's a good event that we've been involved with in the past. Anybody have any questions?
And
Can I
where,
entertain a motion? Did somebody say something?
yes, just had a
Amanda.
question. So the location and things like that would be yet to be determined as we
Yeah.
collaborated with the other councils.
Yeah, the date, the time, the location, all that would be, decided. Then we would form a committee with representation by each community council and start meeting and, go from there.
Okay. Yeah. And I know that the candidates, they're going to have really booked special. I'm sure their schedules are going to be really booked, especially ones that are serving right now. So just staying in the loop for that. I'm sure they would appreciate that sooner than later.
Yeah. Sometimes it's difficult to find a night where most, if not all, of the candidates are available because other entities, other community councils, other groups sponsor these kind of candidates forums as well. So it's good that we, maybe kick the bucket and start looking at things in January, or at least contacting the other councils to see what kind of interest there is. So Pat, go ahead.
I think filing opens tomorrow. Tomorrow, the 16th. Just so you know that the candidates have, so if others, and I can't remember what the deadline is for them to file, but I think it opens tomorrow.
Let's see. I don't know if I have that info
I thought
right off the top of my head. I mean, in my file that I created that has nothing in it yet, because we haven't done anything yet. But I have a file started anyway. Yeah, I have to go online and get all that kind of detail. But thanks, Pat.
I do think we have a candidate online right now, so I don't know if they can provide some information.
I don't think it's not relevant at this point. We just need to know that we'll be able to contact those candidates as time goes on.
So can I entertain a motion to get this officially started here?
This is Pat.
Thank
Oops.
you, Pat.
I move to begin the process of putting together a candidate forum for the April's election, municipal election.
And that Turnagain would specifically
Yes.
participate in this.
We don't even need to do that. I mean, at this point, yeah, that the Turnagain Community Council begin the process of putting together a candidate forum for the municipal election in April. How's that?
Can I make a friendly amendment just to add with the other West Side district, or other West Side councils.
Yes, go ahead and add that.
Sorry, so Amanda, would you like to state what the motion would be as you're amending?
Let's see, I'll try to type in the chat so that the Turnagain Community Council will initiate a candidate forum in collaboration with other West Side councils for the upcoming April election.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Does anybody object to Amanda's amendment? If not, that amendment is approved. So thank you, Amanda. And so we'll be back to the main motion as amended. Is there any objection?
I don't think we have a second. I can go ahead and second the main.
Thank you.
I'll second, Kathy.
Okay.
This is Karen. Thank you.
Second, thank you. Okay, so let's see. Amendment, Karen, second. Amended. Okay, and is there any objection to the amendment? Okay, if not, let's go to the main motion as amended. Is there anybody opposing our initiation of hoping to collaborate with other councils on a candidates forum for the April 2026 election? I don't see anybody, so as amended passes. With no
I thought we
objection.
needed a hand vote.
No, on something like this. It's one of the things I learned at the FCC workshop a year ago is it's much more efficient for councils to use no objection on most matters so that you don't spend a lot of time counting hands and so forth. It's proper, but thanks, Dan. I appreciate it.
That's correct.
Okay, so that motion as amended passes with no objection. So I appreciate that. So the next question would be, is there anyone that would like to serve on a West Candidates Forum committee?
I can do that.
Amanda, okay. And I would like to be part of that. And anybody else? Okay.
Happy to join you guys too, Kathy.
Oh, great, Karen. Thank you. Okay, so three can put our heads together and do outreach and go from there and see if we can get something planned for this spring election. So, okay. And then we did add another old and new business item. So Marnie, I will hand that over to you and let you provide what an update you've got for Coastal Trail, Westchester Lagoon area updates.
Thanks, Kathy. It's another good trail story. I'm glad to be part of the improvements that Turnagain Community Council, and we're joined by North Star and South Edition to put a proposal together to improve the safety of the trails. As you can see on the graphic there, if you can pull it up, it's a 10-minute walk basically to the north, to the west, to the Fish Creek area, and then to the east, including Hillcrest Hill. And it's a congested area and getting more so. And I was at the AMAT's policy committee meeting this afternoon and was invited to just make mention of this because after talking with Graham Downey and Aaron, the head of AMATS, and Anna, they all basically says it's time to speak up. So I just wanted to let you know that what's coming our way on this one is they said what's going to be important for those three community councils is to get this project in your CIP list. I said, I don't know if I can do that as a priority. And they said, no, just see if you can get it in on the CIP list at your community councils, because that would make a huge difference in order to advocate for it. So I apologize. I couldn't find out what the CIP schedule is, but I know it's quite a process. I think Kathy's always run it. So I wanted to let you all know that that is still very much alive. And of course, funding is the issue. Originally, I had thought going to AMATS would give us a better chance for some funding, but they're all struggling. So Anna had suggested maybe some sort of a joint bond AMATS thing. So I don't know. We're trying to figure that out. So in the course of the afternoon, though, I did meet the regional planning director for DOT, who offered to kind of give me a tutorial on all of the studies and the step-to-step things that are necessary to keep this moving. So I'll get back to you when I know a little bit more, but for now, I think it's heading the right direction. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you so much, Marnie. So we did approve our CIP list just last fall, early winter, I believe. I'd have to double check on that. So it's typically the municipality that initiates notice to community councils of when it's time to look at your CIP list and present any updates. It's not typically done council by council on our own timeline. So we will need more information with regard to any efforts that we may want to do to amend that CIP list that we have formally submitted to the municipality and for consideration, by the assembly, which I believe they did pass. So it's just one of those things that we're going to have to just get more information, but that how much ability of individual councils, because then this would also be North Star and South Edition, like Marnie said. So we would have to collaborate and come up with similar wording on our CIP list and so forth. So, but very much appreciated that you're working on this. And I don't know if Kathleen McCoy is still involved in this or not, but I know she initially was working with you on this. And so we'll just keep collaborating and see what can happen next. So hopefully we'll have an update at our next meeting on the February 5th, I believe. Okay. Any other questions or comments before we move on?
Thanks, Kathy. That was generous. My inclination is to not upset the process, just try to work with what we've got. But I'll have more information after I meet with the DOT guy on the timing of a CIP.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, great. And I believe I saw, is Senator Clayman with us now? Let's see. I was thinking I saw him join us, but I don't see him now. So so I was going to, make sure that he's able to give his report, but I don't see him. So if all eyes can let me know when he joins in so that we can go ahead and make sure he's wants to present to the council. So those are the three things that were under old and new business. And so now we're down to TCC committee reports. And John and I are co-chairs on that. And John, I'll let you take the lead on providing the reports.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. I'm going to pull up our letter and the detailed responses. This was, I think, on our November agenda, so it's been given out ahead of time. What has happened is that the Fish Creek Trail project has been kind of progressing. About a year ago, I think it was March of last year, they had an open house at the Spenard Rec Center, and they kind of rolled out the new details on the alignment, part of which included sort of a reroute of the coastal trail from where it comes out. From where it comes out.
I often do the same thing.
Hey, Lauren, we can hear you talking. Even though you're on mute, for some reason we hear you talking. Anyways, so this was rolled out. There was a new alignment of the coastal trail as part of this project from where it leaves the railroad tracks and hooks back into the Fish Creek Bridge. And there wasn't really a lot of opportunity to ask questions. So we put together a detailed list of questions in, I think, May of last year. We had a land use committee meeting on that. We were given 3 large scale copies of what are the scroll maps, which are kind of the 3 segments, and put together sort of a list of questions. And they got back to us with their answers kind of in late October. And we've been a bit preoccupied with some other things and need to look at these answers and then perhaps schedule a meeting with them. And so what we are thinking about is a land use meeting first to kind of go over their answers and then consider a second land use committee meeting with the project team to do that. Generally, the types of questions we had and the types of issues that have come up is about the alignment in general, and there are some concerns by property owners about that alignment, particularly along the south side of it. There's sort of questions about some of the design and where there are cuts and fills and what they're doing with overlooks and things like that. And then there are questions about particularly the coastal trail piece. And so I'm just going to scroll through this really quickly. You can see how detailed it is. We had questions about the scroll maps in general. We had questions about specific scroll maps in terms of each one, what they're doing. We are then had some questions about, they had some typical sections. And we had some questions about those because they showed how the construction would occur. And then sort of our last questions, proximity, some, features, fences, things like that. They had an environmental document, which is categorical exclusion, and they provided answers to all of those. So we want to sit down and kind of go through those answers and then see where we might have a focus of discussion for a meeting with them. Now, we also have found out that, Audubon was kind of concerned about this coastal trail reroute and what it did to their viewing platform. And they've evidently had a meeting with Audubon and resolved their concerns. We're trying to get some additional detail to that. And the other thing they've told us is as of last week, they hadn't updated the website for a while and they're planning on doing that soon. So I think what we want to consider here is when we schedule a Turnagain Community Council Land Use Committee meeting to go over this letter and responses, and then subsequently schedule a meeting with the project team. Kathy and Dan, you were kind of part of that detailed discussion. I don't know if you have anything else to add, and then we can potentially open it up to questions to see if people have questions about all of this and where it is.
Yeah, thanks, John. I think that new information that you had just provided was interesting. I had gotten word from Anchorage Audubon, sometime late last year, that they were very concerned about the viewing platform that was installed with Anchorage Audubon money that was actually generated back when I was a board member for the organization. And so I was very familiar with how that funding came about and that subsequently it went to that viewing platform. And so now the information that we've had is there was a meeting with Great Land Trust and with Audubon and the project team, but they didn't include Turnagain Community Council and our land use committee members who are closely following this, which was kind of disappointing because then we could have been part of that dialogue together. But from our understanding, and this is secondhand, that Anchorage Audubon is okay with now how things have been amended because it preserves that viewing platform along the coastal trail. And so we have no idea what the reroute, as John, as you mentioned, looks like now, since they are not going to be, the initial reroute was going to wipe that platform out. So we definitely need new information about that and then see how that, dominoes into, the changes that they're going to have to make as far as the coastal trail and where they're going to locate it right in that area. So clearly we need that information as part of our internal discussions because that's kind of critical to that part of what our input was. And we don't know if there's any other new information that we just haven't been privy to. So it's essential that we, have the information that we need so we can have a good discussion internally and then with the project team. So Dan, do you, want to go ahead and jump in?
Yes, I do. I once I got over the initial shock of the reroute of the coastal trail, I started looking at the safety issues that this will mitigate with the curves and closeness to the fence and the privately owned fence that will not be moved. And I think that the reroute of the coastal trail from a safety standpoint is a good thing, and I will support it going forward because of the mitigation of the safety issues, and this area is very high traffic, and an extension of should be extended beyond the this area should be also included in what Marnie's working on. And so I think, yes, I will support these improvements. To me, they're improvements and changes.
Okay, so Dan, I know when we had met internally, you had some issues about the, what kind of materials and rocks and how that extension would be built in the mud flats, and as well as where the Fish Creek Trail northern connection makes to the coastal trail. You had said at that point that the ADA angle, they weren't meeting ADA criteria. Do you have more information on that now that the rest of us aren't privy to, that now you're revising where you stand with that?
Where they're tying in the Fish Creek Trail to the coastal trail, if you look at the length versus the grade, it will meet ADA requirements. So
we haven't seen the new drawings yet, though.
Well, this is pretty. If you look at the drawing that's up there, that will mitigate the issues, because what they're doing is they're putting in an S curve, and that S curve meets the gradient, and they're going to change the gradient of the curve to meet the ADA.
Okay, so what's being shared now is the revised.
No, this is Kathy. This is the original one that.
Okay, so Dan, I think this is old. This drawing is old. So we need to see the revised drawing before, and then just internally review that. You may be perfectly right, but I don't. Yeah.
So I think for that.
What's that?
We should ask them for that.
Yeah,
yeah.
But I've been told that they will meet the ADA requirements.
Okay. So you've been working on this as well?
No, I've just last time I talked to them.
Okay.
So I think the next thing we need to do here, number one, let's see if there are any questions, and then let's talk about when we set up an internal land use committee meeting, which we had actually talked about tomorrow, but since our meeting got pushed back, I suspect we're looking at potentially next week. But Kathy, I would see if anybody has questions about the project and where we are on it.
Yeah. Okay. So if you want to go ahead and take that diagram down, I would appreciate it.
Gladly, that way we can see hands and what's going on. All right.
Okay. Yeah. So, like John had said, we submitted a fairly detailed, expressing questions, concerns, just anything positive that we liked about it at that time. And now, it's time to get back. They provided some input that we need to review, because we don't know if they've addressed all of our, concerns at this point. And we need to get that revised drawing of the coastal trail realignment. So does anybody have any questions at this point in our involvement with this project? I don't see anybody's hands raised, so let's see. So now it's a matter of scheduling a land use committee meeting. And I had contacted FCC to find out what dates were available. And I know I emailed them to you guys. Let's see if I have it buried in my, I believe next Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday were the conference room there at the Federation of Community Councils, which is where we met before. That we would be meeting. I think those 3 dates were open at the time I checked, which was about a week ago or so. And we obviously can't meet next Wednesday because the FCC delegate meeting is in that same venue next Wednesday. So, John, do you have any preference on when our committee might want to meet?
I don't think I do. I'm just going to take a quick look at my calendar to see if there's anything going on next week that I need to worry about. So bear with me for about a second here, but I don't know that I have a preference. And then I think we want to get an idea for who else wants to attend. It's certainly open to anybody who wants to attend. So as far as next week goes, I think I'm relatively wide open for like a 5:30 meeting.
Okay. So probably it would take us 2 hours. So I'd say
Yes.
5 to 7.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay. So is there anybody else interested in participating in this kind of internal review?
Yeah, Kathy, I am interested in joining the land use committee meeting, and I want to note that Senator Clayman has joined us. Thanks.
Yeah, and as soon as we wrap this up, I will definitely give him the floor.
This is Pat. Since I was part of that little trot down the trail, I'd like to, depending on when the meeting is. So
Okay.
whatever you decide, just let me know when it is, and if I can participate, I will.
Okay, and Sandy, you've got your hand raised.
I do. For me, Monday or Tuesday would be better, and I think there's a conflict on Thursday, the 22nd, with a Muni program about budget that was mentioned earlier.
Okay, good point. Thank you. Dan?
I would propose Tuesday. That's probably a good day for me. Monday is not.
Okay.
Wednesday is not a good day for you because that's FCC meeting.
Right. Yeah, we couldn't meet at FCC if it were held on Wednesday. Yeah, Jean, are you interested in attending?
Jean is and Kathleen is.
Okay.
Tuesday.
Okay. Okay, anybody else? If not, why don't we, John, is it okay? We go ahead and tentatively say next Tuesday, and that date is, I don't have a calendar in front of me,
20th.
but January 20th at 5 to 7 p.m. at the FCC conference room.
Right.
Okay. All right, excellent. Well, I will contact the FCC tomorrow to reserve that then, and well, John, I think you've got the drawings and maps, and if we can get an update, would you mind trying to get a revised drawing of the coastal trail realignment map?
Yeah, I'll reach out to Med Edge tomorrow and ask them if we can get that and sort of get an additional update. And then I'll also check their website to see if they by chance put new information on it, which doesn't look.
Okay, that's great.
If FCC is not available next Tuesday, we can meet in our conference room at my office.
Okay.
At 310 K Street, Suite 309.
But parking might be an issue.
Yeah, it is, but
yeah. Well, I was told it's available, but that was a week or so ago. So I will double check that tomorrow. But thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay. I think we're done with the land use committee. Oh, no, we aren't. There's another item, but if that's okay with you, John, we'll let Matt Clayman jump in right now and give his report.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks for being patient. I've had some pre-session meetings that just finished, and so obviously everybody's in the process of heading down to Juneau for the session, which starts on Tuesday. My reminder to the community councils is all get your CAPSIS requests in. I think the deadline's in February. I know we had it on the announcement we sent out. Lots of discussions about different topics, but I again think as every year, the biggest challenge and one of the biggest issues is going to continue to be the budget. We do have financial challenges, and those are going to be part of the discussions this year. Looking forward to being in Juneau, and appreciate you all's continued keeping track of things. And the only thing I noted in the newsletter as well, one of the topics that's a kind of a big state topic is, should we consider amending the Constitution and make the override standard for any legislation, both be it kind of regular substantive legislation and the budget? Should it be 2/3 for everything, or should we still have a 3/4 override for expenditures and for revenue measures, which we're right now the only state in the country that has an override threshold that's that high? It's, I think, an interesting question that there's going to be taken up some this session. And so if you've got thoughts on that, happy to hear them, and also follow up with the office if you want to talk about it more. But other than that, happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Does anybody have any questions for Matt before he heads to Juneau? Jonathan, go ahead.
Hi, Matt. I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I sent you that note. I certainly support you on amending the Constitution. It's obviously makes sense given the circumstances. And Alaska should not be the only state where we have to have such a massive majority, so things just don't get done. And we have one of our branches then would have more of a free reign, and so we really don't have equal branches in that case. But my comment is, I think it's crucial really to let the electorate know the simple explanation of this. Not just people that pay attention to politics, but the average person who would be voting. A simple process clarifying exactly why it makes sense for the PR guys to come up with is my comment. But thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And certainly those kinds of discussions that go on. And if the legislature takes the votes and the governor actually doesn't have a veto on whether or not it goes on the ballot, if both the House and the Senate by 2/3 vote put it on the ballot, then it's on the ballot. And then I think there'll be that question about how to really present that to the public will be get a lot of discussion as well.
Okay. Thanks, Matt.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any comments or questions for Matt at this point? And yeah, your report was sent out with the meeting notice, so appreciate that.
Oh, thank you for that.
I don't see any other hands raised, so good luck in Juneau. Hopefully the weather won't be so crazy like it has been down there, and we can certainly look forward to hearing from you via Zoom at hopefully our next meeting as well.
I will plan to be there, and you all always very good about getting in touch, so I never worry that Turnagain's not keeping in touch. So I appreciate the regular communication.
Okay, great. Okay, so we'll go back to was there anything else anybody wanted to discuss about the Fish Creek Trail connection? Looks like we'll probably meet next Tuesday and get that room reserved, and then we'll subsequent to that we'll schedule an open meeting. You might say all of our meetings are open, but we'll put the word out as far as our meeting then with the project team and presenting us and giving us updates on that Fish Creek Trail connection project. So then the second item under land use report is just the ongoing saga of Tisdale and what's morphed out of that. So John, thanks for following this much more closely than I've been doing. So, what's the latest on that?
Okay, I will give an update and then I'm going to ask Sandy to add some things to it because he has been attending regularly the meetings of a group that has formed to try to come up with a alternative to Tisdo. One thing I will note is that at the last meeting we had of the group, which started out as We Love Anchorage, and I think it's now morphed to a name which is called A Better Idea for Anchorage. They had both Brian Flynn and Anna Brawley attend the meeting and were asking them questions about Tisdo and some of the issues. And, with Brian having been here, I just want to thank him for his participation in that. I'm not sure he's still here, but I did want to recognize that. So to kind of give an
He left
update,
the meeting.
okay. So just to kind of give an update, this was scheduled for Planning and Zoning Commission approval after a second or third public meeting in October, and a version 6 of Tisdo was introduced by the planning department at noon the day of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, which is quite unusual and not, really very good public process. There was quite a bit of testimony. There was about 3 to 4 hours of public testimony. After much debate, based on the request from the mayor's office, that they pass it and move it on to the assembly, but the mayor's office was going to be declaring a pause, and they wanted to get it out of the planning and zoning and then have a pause. And so a pause was declared in October. There's really been no new information about the pause. A group of us had submitted a proposal to them at the end of September saying, your public involvement is inadequate. You need a series of facilitated community meetings where we can look at some of the concepts and alternatives to the idea of Tisdo, which was to basically kind of remove zoning constraints and make R1, R2 available to multifamily, increase lot coverage, reduce setbacks, increase height limits, and do a lot of things. And also originally to allow mixed commercial and light industrial use in single family neighborhoods, which in most people's view would have a significant impact on those neighborhoods.
It's still around.
And so those things are still in play. They're still kind of on the books, and we're kind of keeping an eye out to see if it pops up on the assembly agenda somewhere. Kind of based on that, a group formed in October, which started as We Love Anchorage. And what's kind of interesting about that group is it includes a variety of residents from different neighborhoods. And there are community council members there from South Addition, Rogers Park, North Star, and Sand Lake, in addition to us. And I think there's typically been about maybe 30 to 40 people attending those meetings. And so they've had meetings once a month, I think October, November, December, January. That may be one too many. I know Sandy's attended 4 of them, and I've attended 3 of them. And they formed some subcommittees, which they now have sort of winnowed down to 4. One is to pursue a pilot project along Fireweed Lane, where they would look at increasing density and test out some of these ideas as compared to applying Tisdo in all neighborhoods. A second subcommittee is dealing with collecting data that may or may not support the need that Tisdo is trying to meet. Sandy may be on that committee. A third is pursuing avenues for increasing neighborhood awareness of this proposal and getting them engaged, and I'm on that committee. And then there's a 4th committee, which is dealing with strategies for lobbying the mayor and assembly members should this thing continue to move forward. I think with that, if Sandy is on and willing, I don't know, Sandy, if there's anything you would like to add to that, and then I'll kind of give another update.
Sure. Well, I would just add briefly that the the other thing that we've learned is that a number of ordinances have passed in the past 12 months or so that can be assumed to be related to this, but the reality is they've already passed. For example, all parking requirements have been eliminated. If if my house were torn down and somebody replaced it, with a duplex or something larger, there would be no requirement for any on-site parking. If you had a car, it would be out in the street. And when you take that concept and start expanding it in quite a bit of increased density, you basically fill the cars with streets, and at least in my opinion, then have nowhere to plow the snow. So there's a bunch of things that have happened. Another one is that whenever the municipality proposes a rezone, they've eliminated the requirement for public notice. And that underlies why when people learned about Tisdo, myself being an example, I'd never heard about it until actually John told me about it. And that's been the case with 20 plus member neighbors that I've talked to at a late summer potluck in our neighborhood. Virtually nobody had heard about it. So there's a bunch of things that have gone on. There are already the water's already gone under the bridge that pile on to concerns people have with Tisdo. And the bottom line is lots of people are concerned. They're fearful of what might happen to their neighborhoods. And I think the administration, unfortunately, just my opinion here, but in my opinion, the administration has really lost some public trust because of the way they've been rolling all this out. So, yeah, I think I'll leave it at that.
So I think one of the things this group has also been talking about is that it's going to be important to have an alternative to what has been proposed. And hence, I think one way to do this is the one committee that's working on, let's do this in one place as a pilot project and see how this works and start with fireweed along the road before we start applying it to all neighborhoods willy-nilly. We may have to go a little bit further than that because, one of the sponsors, there are three, if I remember correctly, I think there's three sponsors to this. Aaron Baldwin Day, George Martinez, and I'm trying to remember who was maybe just two. But Aaron Baldwin,
Maybe Voland, I believe maybe Assembly Man Voland.
no, actually Voland is not, surprisingly enough.
Oh, he's not.
Yeah, he's expressed a few concerns about this, which has really been nice to see.
Okay.
So Aaron Baldwin Day kind of came from Ackpurg in the Housing Club and was elected to the assembly. And she has been really kind of pursuing this and, still trying to get support for it, even though there's been quite a bit of pushback. I think there's been at least three and potentially as many as five community councils that have passed resolutions opposing this, including us. But she's still trying to move it forward. And so we kind of have to keep an eye on when it might pop up. We have been talking to Anna about this. And while she says she's not a sponsor and she's not involved, we've kind of said, look, this is a concern and we're going to expect you to step up and represent the concerns of your constituents. I did ask Graham Downey of the mayor's office for an update on three things. What's happening with the Tisdo pause. The other thing that's out there is that the Muni had contracted out for a parking street management study. And when they did away with parking, as Sandy indicated, they had decided that they were going to try to do a study to look at the unintended consequences of this. And there was going to be a working group set up, which I was going to be on, but this mayor's office decided to do away with it, and they've gone out and contracted for a parking street management study. The planning department, primarily the director and the lead planner on this, said, we don't have a parking problem in this town. What we need to do is better manage our rights of way so that we assign rights and do things like this. So they've contracted this parking study. There's supposed to be a draft available soon. And I think it's going to be really crucial to see what this draft says, because as Sandy has indicated, what this whole set of proposals does to parking is of significant concern to neighborhoods. So I did ask the mayor's office, the planning department, about an update on what's happening with the Tisdo pause, what's happening with the parking and street management study, and also what's happening with the comprehensive plan update, because that kind of popped up during our recent Better Idea for Anchorage meeting, and Kathy and I were following that for a while, but we really don't know what's happening. I only heard back from Graham, and Graham said that um, they will be working with a facilitator to have more community dialogue and perhaps take the focus away from transit to more how do we get to the Merritt View at 10,000 homes. He didn't have anything about the parking management study in the comprehensive plan update. Um, Neither Melissa or Daniel McKenna Foster have responded to my email, nor has McKenna Foster returned a phone call. So I'm going to try to keep reaching them to find out what's going on there because all these things have a bearing. I think at this point we need to kind of keep an eye on what's happening with the assembly members and keep talking to Anna and Cameron about this. We need to probably work with other folks of this Better Idea from Anchorage to come up with an alternative to Tisdale because we've kind of heard from several assembly members saying, if you just say no, go away, we're not going to listen to you. If you don't like it, come up with a better idea. So I think we need to work on that. Um, and then just be prepared to respond to what comes up. We kind of suspect that this will be paused till after the election when you have two new assembly members, in particular replacing Constant and replacing Felix Rivera. So I think that's kind of an update on what's happening, other than we're just kind of keeping to watch this thing like a hawk and coordinate with other affected community councils.
Okay, John, lots to digest there. Does anybody have any thoughts on everything that Sandy and John shared with regard to this process and where things are moving?
I've noted before that I think part of the solution for how we spur development in ways that has the thoughtful parking, the neighborhood considerations, the design that makes for good neighborhoods and livable housing is encouraging the city to work with those developers who are building affordable, accessible housing. And that's not just changing code and hoping somebody shows up and comes, but is actually incentivizing specific areas in town where there's transportation corridors already in place. There's already access to food and services and jobs. And those are areas where there can be development that's intentionally higher density and can have some of that thoughtful design. And I think that we should be explicit about that to the assembly and to others, that's a way to accomplish what we're talking about, and in the shorter term, because the idea that if we just loosen up all zoning code, that somehow some of this housing will trickle down to the folks who need housing the worst is just not realistic. Thanks.
No, thanks, Karen. I mean, that is exactly what they're kind of saying is that we're going to loosen this up and this is going to happen. And don't worry, it's not going to harm your neighborhoods. It's going to happen slowly. I know the Cook-Inlet housing has been part of some of the discussions. I've had informal discussions with them, and it's time for another one because I think you're absolutely right. While they have financing mechanisms that's not available to everybody, they've taken a really pretty thoughtful approach about where this makes sense, how to design it, how to reduce neighborhood impact. So you're absolutely correct.
Yeah, and Sandy, I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I would just add, Karen, boy, you hit all the points. And so thank you for for bringing them up. I'm trying to think how to say this simply. I feel, well, no, okay. The key point is you mentioned affordable housing, okay? there was a requirement for affordable housing in a 2020 ordinance, but that was repealed in 2024. And when I asked Graham Downey at one meeting, are we talking about affordable housing? The answer was no. Um, and we talked some more, and the basic take was they kind of, at least I'll just say he said, I don't care what kind of housing, we just want houses. And the hope is that it's going to kind of trickle down. And I'm old enough to say I don't believe in trickle down economics. I don't think it works. And I don't think trickle down housing will work. If you want affordable housing, which I think is probably more of what's needed, you got to make it affordable on day one, and that comes down to economic subsidies in a variety of ways. Tisdale is not talking about that, and that to me is a real issue. Anyway, I'll stop there. I could go on and on. I will say, John Isaacs has been doing a beyond fantastic job. So keep John happy because we need him doing this.
Yeah, thank you for that, and certainly agree. And I'm trying to follow as possible, but things have been kind of crazy, so I don't know if things are going to settle down or not. But thank you for being engaged. Keep us updated, and we'll see what kind of action may be needed in the near or not so near future with regard to, officially the council weighing in at this point. But following this is critical. So many thanks to both you, Sandy and John. So we have about 4 minutes left. Does anybody want to share anything else before we adjourn?
Could I do a postscript to my presentation?
Yes.
I just got a note from our hardworking assemblywoman. Miss Anna says that the CIP process will open sometime in March.
Wow. Okay, they're going to do it a lot earlier this year.
I don't know what all is involved in that, but I just skimmed through the rest of it. So it takes a while to get through it, as you well know, but it's coming, which is good.
That is good. Okay. Anything else? Thank you,
Pat.
Oh, Pat, go ahead.
I just want to thank everybody who is attending these meetings, and hopefully one of these days I'll retire completely and leave it all to the young generation.
No.
But I really appreciate all the stuff that's being done on land use and all the efforts we're making. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. And Pat, your history of the council from day one has been notable, to say it mildly, and to put it mildly. And the Federation of Community Council is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. And so community councils and then subsequently FCC to provide support to 37 councils. I think it used to be 38. Now it's probably going to be 36 because 2 councils have just merged with each other as of Tuesday's assembly meeting, if I've got that right. So it's all good. Thank you, everybody, and for your interest and participation. Really, really appreciate it. So happy New Year again to everyone. And our next meeting will, be next Friday, or the February 5th, I believe. So in the meantime, we'll be having our land use committee activity done and following comment deadlines and the whole 9 yards. So many thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Move to adjourn?
Move to adjourn. Second. Was that you, Kathleen? Okay.
Seconded. Dan.
Okay. I think you're stepping over Kathleen's second, but
I did second.
Oh,
Whatever.
Pat, did you second?
No.
I don't know.
Second.
You got plenty of
We're
seconds.
done.
Bye.
Good night.
Good everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Dan,
Thank you.
don't don't shut off I need to write something down from the chat, please. So don't shut down, but thank you, everybody.
Okay, thanks all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Kathy, I just wanted to let you know I sent an email with this information from Serena about the CAPSIS account.
Oh,
See,
good. Because that was
maybe
one of the
we'll-
things I wanted to write down.
Yeah, I sent an email to the TCC board to see if they had thoughts on how to approach that, because it sounds like it's been a challenge over the past couple of years making the system work and everything. So
Yeah. I think just walking us, through it will be very helpful if Serena can help us with that. So, good idea. Okay.
and
Thank
thanks
you,
for
everybody.
hosting, Dan.
Yep. Thank you. Good night. Okay. So we will leave.
Good night, Amanda. I'm going to shut down. Amanda, I'm going to shut down.